Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a look at our winners and losers from Sunday's thrilling Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Let's just jump straight into it then, and to kick things off, the first winner is the actual race winner. A strong and surprising start, I know. Now, Charles Leclerc said post-race this one was unexpected. Although he kept himself in contention for much of the race, he always looked like a bit of an outsider for the victory itself. That was, though, until the call was made by Ferrari to gamble on a one-stop strategy, something none of the other top 8 drivers thought was possible apart from Carlos Sainz, who in fairness himself wasn't totally convinced by the strategy. For it to work, Charles Leclerc needed to channel his inner tyre whisperer and take his hard compound tyres from lap 15 all the way to the end, and he managed to pull it off with some excellent tyre management while still maintaining a pace strong enough to keep the rapidly closing Oscar Piastri at bay. Suddenly, as the laps ticked down, the win was a possibility, something amusingly that Tifosi didn't realise until the closing stages of the race, the cheers of the crowd getting louder and louder each time Leclerc powered his way down the start-finish straight, and the dream of the first Ferrari Monza victory since 2019 started to become a reality. In many ways, you could argue it was something new from Leclerc too. He has always been rapid, but has often been branded as a bit of a hero or zero or all or nothing type of driver. But he showed us another side to his driving and another way he is able to get the job done when needed. Of course, he's managed tyres before and grabbed some good results because of it, but this felt slightly different due to the fact it was seemingly quite a late call and switch to management mode. It was impressive stuff all round from Leclerc, including that move on Lando Norris at the first Lesmo on the opening lap, and the result looks to have pulled Ferrari right into Constructors' Championship contention. More on that a little bit later. Before we get to that one though, the first of the losers this week is McLaren, as yet another win slipped away on Sunday. There is some debate around whether the race was won by Ferrari or lost by McLaren, perhaps an element of both, but the fact is the team had locked out the front row on Saturday, were still 1 and 2 coming out of the first chicane on the opening lap, but still ended up finishing second and third. Given the struggles of title rivals, Red Bull this weekend offered up a great opportunity for the Woking team to take a huge chunk out of Max Verstappen's championship lead and even take P1 in the Constructors' Championship standings. However, whilst they did close the gap, this feels like a missed opportunity and one they may rue come the end of the season, at least on the driver's side of things. They still look, though, like favourites to take their first Constructors' title since 1998. Yes, it really has been that long, thanks in part to the Spygate scandal of 2007, for example, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, a one-stop strategy worked a treat for Ferrari, but it never looked an option for McLaren. Lando Norris had issues with his left front dropping off, not literally, and Oscar Piastri was clear on the radio when asked that he didn't think pitting just the once would work out. The Aussie, though, was just 2.6 seconds off Leclerc on the end of the race, and so wasn't all that far away from making the two-stopper the winning strategy. Now, the first lap battle through the second chicane may well have cost them some time, and Norris losing out to Leclerc a corner later certainly did, but it was a hard but fair move from Piastri to take the lead, and he was quick enough after that to be able to justify to the team why he made the move. Even if it was just about within the Papaya rules we've now discovered are a thing, rules the team have said they will review ahead of Baku, Andrea Stella telling media, including PlanetF1.com, that they will adjust the Papaya rules to allow the team to pursue the Constructors and Drivers' Championship in the best possible manner. The first time he's really acknowledged both titles are up for grabs, and even added that, quote, "If we can achieve both as a team, we need to put the team in condition and Lando in condition to pursue both championships." And that is the topic for our question of the day. With the team looking like favourites for the Constructors, do you think it's time McLaren started to prioritise Lando Norris to help him chase down Max Verstappen in the drivers' standings? You can let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Our next winner this week is Ferrari. Again, perhaps not a huge surprise given what's already been said about Charles Leclerc and, the fact they won the race. Now, over the years, there have been many examples of some pretty poor strategy calls from Ferrari, and a lot of criticism has been levelled at them as a result. However, on Sunday at Monza, they absolutely nailed it. Yes, the one-stopper was a gamble, but it was a gamble worth taking and one that paid off brilliantly. It wasn't quite a case of nothing to lose, because they would have tumbled down the order if a late pit stop was needed or if the tyres fell off a cliff, but again, it was well worth giving it a go. After all, as Carlos Sainz said, I guess we try. It wasn't just all about the win, though, as the team brought a big package of updates to Monza that could, and I'll emphasise the word could again, set them in good stead for the rest of the season. The floor updates seem to resolve some of the bouncing issues the car has suffered with at times this season, and the drivers grew in confidence as the weekend went on and the car was much more competitive than many, including Ferrari, expected it to be before the weekend got underway. There were other updates too, some track specific like the low downforce rear wing, but things are certainly looking brighter for the team overall. As touched on earlier, the result looks to have pulled the team into the fight for the Constructors' Championship title, although Leclerc is a very, very long shot for the drivers. Let's not go to post-Monaco levels of title contending anticipation, though that didn't age well. But they are certainly, assuming they don't fall apart between now and the end of the season, right in the mix. After all, they leave Monza just 39 points behind Red Bull and 31 behind McLaren, outsiders perhaps, but if McLaren are likely favourites, then Ferrari surely have a chance as well. Back to the losers club at Monza then, and the next entrant is Red Bull. Funnily enough, whilst they did have a poor weekend and so they have to make the losers list, it could have been so much worse. Yes, really. After qualifying, and indeed at times during the race, it looked like they were going to lose the Constructors' Championship lead for the first time since Spain 2022, and have a massive chunk of points taken out of Verstappen's lead too. As it turned out, the gap between Verstappen and Norris didn't decrease any more than it would have done if Norris had won, set the fastest lap and Verstappen finished second. And although the lead in the team standings has been cut to just 8 points, it could again have been so much worse. Red Bull have Ferrari to thank for that. The weekend started well for Max Verstappen, topping FP1, but that was very much the high point of the whole weekend for them. The pace just was not there and there was nothing the drivers could do. Verstappen even saying during Q3 the car was not drivable anymore, and added to that in the pen to Sky Sports F1 post-race quote, "If we don't change anything on the car, it is all going to be bad from now on to the end of the season." Throw into the mix a slow pit stop and the fact the Dutchman was apparently suffering from an engine issue during the race, and it's no surprise he could do little more than take a distant 6th place finish. It is incredible to think that if things carry on the way they are and Red Bull don't find a fix to their problems, we could end up in a situation where the champions finish as low as 3rd in the Constructors' standings once a checkered flag falls in Abu Dhabi. With only 8 races to go though, they need to work fast because time is rapidly running out. Alex Albon is one of our Monza winners after a strong showing across the weekend. It's not hugely surprising that he went well, given that this has, in recent years at least, been a track that really suits the Williams. Yes, of course, he gained a place to take P9 thanks to Kevin Magnussen's penalty, but he would still have been in the points, and so even without that extra place, it was still a very good performance from Albon. He was another driver who managed to look after his tyres and make the one-stop work. Not the first time Albon has used his own tyre whisperer powers to pick up points, thinking back to Australia 2022, for example. He was managing graining on his front left throughout the race and said he was even having to underdrive the car to keep that under control, which perhaps makes the result look a little bit more impressive. Ultimately, though, it was a cracking result for Albon and a couple of big points for Williams in what is looking increasingly like a super tight battle for P8 in the team standings between now and the end of the season. A fair few points needed, 7 to be precise, if they want to haul in Alpine, but it is doable. Haas and RB, though, look like they're a bit far up the road now for Williams to catch them. Never say never, though. The final loser pick has to be F1's bad boy Kevin Magnussen. The race itself, one moment aside, was actually a really strong one for Magnussen as he drove well to go from 13th to 9th on track before dropping to 10th as a result of a 10-place penalty for the contact with Pierre Gasly. The reason he makes the losers list, though, is because of what that penalty means. K-Mag was also handed 2 penalty points, which took him to the maximum 12 allowed in a 12-month period, and so as a result has had his super license suspended for the next race weekend, that's Baku, although he will return for Singapore with all points wiped from his license. Naturally, Magnussen was not happy with the steward's decision to give him a penalty for what he called slight contact, and as there was no damage and no consequence for either driver, felt they should just have been allowed to get on with it. They were racing was very much his view. The Dane also questioned why Ricciardo only got 5 seconds from his moment with Nico Hülkenberg earlier in the race. As we discussed in the Italian Grand Prix race reaction, the reason for the difference could be a result of the stewards taking a less harsh approach on the opening lap, but it is likely the wording that is key. Ricciardo's penalty was for forcing another driver off track, whereas Magnussen's was for causing a collision, the stewards adding he had not driven in a safe and controlled manner and he was wholly to blame for the collision. Therefore, the 10-second penalty is in line with those handed out for similar infringements in the past. As for who takes his place at Baku, Ollie Bearman is the clear favourite. After all, he is one of their reserve drivers and will be in one of those Haas cars next year, so an early debut and the chance to get a full weekend's experience with the team under his belt will be invaluable. Before we finish, there are a couple of drivers well worth an honourable mention. George Russell was one of the standouts in qualifying after putting his Mercedes in P3 just behind the 2 McLarens. And although the race pace maybe wasn't quite there to challenge for the win, he could have had a strong result on Sunday. However, it's the race issues that actually puts him on the losers list. He took evasive action at turn 1, which resulted in front wing damage and a big drop down the order, a long stop to replace it, costing him even more time. He also had a couple of squabbles with Sergio Perez, which hurt too, but it was ultimately that first corner excursion that put him well out of contention, which is a shame because he did actually get a good start. Let's end with a positive though, shall we? Franco Colapinto makes the winners list. Was his debut the greatest we've ever seen? No. Was his weekend mistake-free? Also no. But considering this was his first full F1 weekend, he did a really good job. Especially when you consider that prior to Monza, he'd done no more than 8 consecutive laps in that car. That's impressive stuff. He made his way from 18th on the grid to finish 12th, had a clean race and ended up around 14 seconds behind teammate Alex Albon and just 13 seconds off a point. He also gets a mention for his tyre management, as he was another driver who was able to make the one-stop work for him. Sure, his mistake in qualifying could well have cost him a debut points finish, but all in all, a good start and not bad at all. So what do you think to our winners and losers selections? Who would you add or remove from our list? You can let us know your own winners and losers for Monza in the comment section down below. And to catch up on the latest Formula One news and reaction, head on over to planetf1.com. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.